In 1808, Napoleon invaded Spain, and King Ferdinand VII was taken prisoner. This sparked the flames of independence among the Creoles, Spanish-born nobles in Latin America. In 1810, revolutions erupted across South America. The age of revolution had begun. Shall we meet the heroes who led the Latin American wars of independence? This man, Simón Bolívar, he fought for Venezuela's independence, but failed at first, and was even forced into exile. But in 1813, he returned and declared the War of Liberation. He drove out the Spanish forces and achieved independence for Venezuela, but the Spanish counterattacked, and he was forced to flee once more. Yet Bolívar never gave up. In 1819, he undertook the miraculous crossing of the Andes and successfully liberated Colombia. His fight was far from over.
Another hero of South American independence, José de San Martín. He devised an unthinkable strategy to defeat the Spanish army. In 1817, he decided to lead 5,000 soldiers across the Andes. They had to conquer these deadly mountains to liberate Chile, over 4,000 meters high, with freezing temperatures and lack of oxygen. Despite sickness and exhaustion, they miraculously made it across. In 1818, the decisive Battle of Maipú determined Chile's fate. San Martín's army crushed the Spanish forces, and Chile was free. But his fight wasn't over yet. The next target was Peru. Would he succeed? The final battle of the Latin American Wars of Independence begins, and leading this battle was Antonio José de Sucre. In 1824, the Spanish forces were preparing for their last stand, but Bolívar's trusted commander, Sucre, was ready to risk everything in this battle. 9,000 Spanish soldiers versus 6,000 liberation troops. The odds were against them, but Sucre's surprise tactics turned the tide of battle. The Liberation Army's overwhelming attack shattered the Spanish forces. And as the Spanish viceroy surrendered in Peru, South America's independence was complete. On December 9, 1824, the Battle of Ayacucho marked the end of 300 years of colonial rule. In 1810, the cry for freedom echoed across Mexico. And at the heart of it stood one man, Father Miguel Hidalgo. On September 16, 1810, he declared revolution with the famous Grito de Dolores. Let's break free from Spanish rule. Let's fight for liberty. Thousands rallied to his call, forming a rebel army. But disorganized and outmatched, they were crushed by the Spanish forces. And Father Hidalgo was captured and executed. But his sacrifice was not in vain. Other leaders carried on his fight for independence. In 1821, Mexico finally won its independence. Father Hidalgo's cry became the eternal symbol of Mexican freedom. Most of Latin America fought bloody wars for independence. But Brazil took a different path. This country won independence through a bloodless revolution. In 1807, as Napoleon invaded Portugal, the Portuguese royal family made a historic decision. They escaped to Rio de Janeiro, turning Brazil into the de facto capital of Portugal. Brazil flourished, growing politically and economically. The dream of independence began to take shape. In 1821, the king returned to Portugal and tried to restore Brazil as a colony. But Prince Pedro I refused to comply. Brazil will be independent. I will cut ties with Portugal forever. This became known as the Cry of Ipiranga. In 1822, Brazil achieved independence without shedding a single drop of blood. Pedro I became Brazil's first emperor. Simón Bolívar didn't just dream of independence, he dreamed of a united South America. In 1819, he founded Gran Colombia, his first bold step toward continental unity. But reality was harsh regionalism, power struggles, and Bolívar's increasingly authoritarian rule. He survived an assassination attempt, but Gran Colombia collapsed into division. In 1830, he stepped down from power and died in solitude. His final words were haunting.
I have plowed the sea.
His dream may have failed, but Bolívar's name still stands as a symbol of freedom and unity.